Captain Liam Reynolds had been on countless missions across the galaxy, but nothing could have prepared him for the storm that tore through the barren landscape of the alien planet. The air was thick with dust, and the sky crackled with energy as an unseen force churned violently overhead. His team had been caught off guard. They had been sent to explore, to catalog the terrain, and to map out the unknown, but now they were struggling to survive. Liam's breath came in ragged gasps as he staggered forward, his body battered by the violent wind. His arm throbbed where the alien creature had struck him. He could feel the venom working its way through his system, slowing him down, blurring his vision. The pain was unbearable, but there was no time to rest. He had to find shelter. The storm continued to rage, and the swirling dust clouds made it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Liam pressed on, determined to survive, as he had done so many times before. He stumbled into an old structure, something ancient, long abandoned. The walls were covered in strange glowing symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. There was no telling how long this place had been here, or who had built it. All that mattered now was that it was a place to hide. Liam slumped against the wall, his strength failing him. He felt his consciousness slipping away as the venom from the creature's claws continued to spread through his body. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt so vulnerable, so weak. He was alone, stranded on an alien world, and his time was running out. As the storm howled outside, Liam's eyes fluttered shut. The last thing he saw was a shadow moving in the doorway, a figure that seemed too tall, too regal to be human. The footsteps that followed were soft, almost too quiet to hear, but they were there, approaching him. Liam's mind struggled to stay conscious, his vision blurred, and the figure before him seemed to shimmer, its shape becoming more defined as he fought to hold on to his fading thoughts. The figure knelt beside him, and the first thing Liam noticed were the eyes, dark, intense eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. The being before him was unlike anything he had ever seen. A woman, tall and elegant, but not human. Her features were sharp, her skin smooth and pale, her hair long and flowing, almost like liquid silver in the dim light. She reached out a hand, and Liam felt a strange sensation, like electricity running through his veins. The pain in his arm intensified, but the sensation in her touch was almost soothing. Her eyes never left his face as she carefully examined his wound. For a moment, everything was still. The wind outside seemed to fade away, the storm quieting, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The alien woman's gaze softened, and she spoke in a voice that sounded both familiar and foreign, as though it was not entirely of this world. "You? Are you real?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Liam's throat was dry and his head swam with confusion. Was he dreaming? Was this a hallucination brought on by the venom in his body? He tried to speak, but his mouth was too dry, his body too weak. All he could manage was a soft grunt, his eyes never leaving hers. The woman seemed to understand. She gently placed her hand on his chest, her touch warm and firm. Liam's breathing slowed as she began to work quickly, a strange device appearing from the folds of her robes. The technology was nothing like he had ever seen, sleek and organic, almost as though it had grown from the walls around them. The device hummed with energy as she pressed it against his wound, the soft glow surrounding it. Slowly, the pain began to subside, the venom retreating as the wound began to heal. Liam felt himself slipping in and out of consciousness as the woman worked. She was unlike anything he had encountered before. Her movements were graceful and deliberate, her power undeniable. But there was something else in her eyes, something that spoke of more than just alien technology or power. It was something deeper, something ancient, something that spoke of an intelligence beyond his comprehension. He could feel the weight of her gaze, the pressure of her words. "You are human," she whispered, as though it was a revelation. She seemed both fascinated and confused. as if she had never encountered a being like him before. Liam's mind struggled to process her words. Human. He had heard stories of aliens encountering humans before, but never had he imagined it would be like this. Never had he imagined that his survival would depend on a being like this, an alien queen, whose very presence seemed to bend the laws of the universe itself. But there was no time for questions, no time for answers. The storm outside was still raging, and Liam knew that his survival depended on more than just his will to live. It depended on this alien queen, this mysterious woman who had saved his life. As he regained his strength, Liam's thoughts began to clear. The queen's work was not done. There was a bond forming between them, an unspoken connection that went beyond their differences. He could feel it deep within his core, that their fates were now intertwined. But what did this mean? What was the queen's true purpose? And how had he become a part of it? The queen rose, her expression unreadable as she turned her gaze back to the storm outside. "You are more than you know, human," she said, her voice filled with quiet reverence. "This is not a coincidence. You have been chosen. Chosen." The word hung in the air like a promise, and in that moment, Liam knew that everything had changed. His mission, his survival, his very existence. None of it would ever be the same again. As the storm continued to rage outside, Liam gathered what strength he had left and stood. The queen didn't seem to notice. Her focus was entirely on the distant horizon, where the storm seemed to be gathering more force. Something was coming, something even more dangerous than the storm itself. And Liam knew in that moment that whatever came next, he would face it with the alien queen by his side. Liam awoke to a new sense of awareness. His body was still sore from the battle, but the pain that had once consumed him was now a distant echo. The venom had been purged from his system, and his wound had healed faster than he thought possible. He sat up, his head still spinning from the strange encounter with the alien queen, Nyxalia. His mind reeled from the weight of it all, his survival against impossible odds, the mysterious figure who had saved him, and the unsettling words she had spoken. "You are more than you know, human." The words had stayed with him as he drifted in and out of sleep. They were a mystery, a riddle he wasn't sure he was ready to solve. What did it mean to be chosen, as she had said, and why had she looked at him with such awe and disbelief? He glanced around the chamber where he had woken up. The walls were made of an organic material, smooth and pulsating with a soft glow. The air was thick with a faint scent that reminded him of something far beyond the reaches of the galaxy. It was both alien and comforting, as if the very atmosphere was alive. The room seemed to hum with energy, almost as though the walls themselves were watching him, waiting for him to make a move. Nyxalia was standing near the far end of the chamber, staring out at the alien landscape through a large open window. The storm had passed, but the sky was still clouded with dark, swirling clouds. The landscape outside was barren, stretching out into an endless horizon of cracked earth and jagged rocks. It was a world that seemed inhospitable to human life, yet here he was, alive, in the heart of it. Liam stood slowly, his legs stiff from the injuries he had sustained. He moved carefully toward the queen, drawn to her presence as though some invisible force was pulling him closer. Nyxalia didn't turn to acknowledge him, but she knew he was there. She always knew. "You're awake," she said without looking at him. Her voice was calm, yet there was an undercurrent of something more, something unspoken, something ancient. Liam didn't know how to respond. There were so many questions swirling in his mind, but he didn't know where to begin. He had never been one for diplomacy, never one for small talk, but this was different. This wasn't just a chance encounter. This was something bigger, something that could change everything. "How did you do it?" Liam asked. His voice came out rough, a mixture of awe and confusion. "How did you heal me so quickly?" Nyxalia finally turned to face him, her eyes locking with his. There was a depth to her gaze, something that reached beyond the surface. She seemed to weigh his words carefully before answering. "I did not heal you, human. You healed yourself," she said, her tone matter-of-fact. "I merely gave you the time and the resources to do so." Liam frowned. That didn't make sense. He had been on the verge of death when she found him, his body shutting down from the venom. How could he have healed himself so quickly? "I don't understand," he muttered, taking a step closer. "I did not just heal you, human," Neria interrupted, her voice tinged with something like sorrow.
"You have a power within you, one that you do not yet understand. A power that you will soon need to understand, for it is the only thing that can save us both."
Liam felt a chill run down his spine. There it was again. Her words, the weight of them, the promise of something greater. He had no idea what she was talking about, but somehow, deep down, he knew that whatever it was, it had something to do with him. "What are you talking about?" Liam asked, his voice low. "What do you need from me?" Neria's eyes softened, and for the first time, Liam saw a flicker of something. Perhaps vulnerability, perhaps fear, behind her composed exterior. It was fleeting, gone as quickly as it had appeared, but it left a mark. "The galaxy is dying, Liam," she said, her voice quiet now, almost a whisper. "My people, my empire, are on the brink of destruction. The Kaldari are relentless, and they will not stop until they have taken everything from us." Liam listened intently, trying to absorb her words. The Kaldari. He had heard rumors of them, ancient enemies of the Zyphoria Empire. A ruthless, expansionist race with no regard for life or peace. They had wiped out entire civilizations, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. "I don't know how I can help you," Liam said, shaking his head.
"I am just a soldier. I've never fought an entire empire before."
Nyria took a step closer to him, her gaze intense. "You are more than a soldier, Liam. You are a symbol. You are proof that humanity can survive in the face of impossible odds. Your kind have done the impossible for centuries. You have survived when no one else could. You are the key to turning the tide." Liam stared at her, struggling to make sense of her words. He didn't feel like anything special. He was just one man, a soldier, who had been assigned to a mission on a distant planet. He wasn't a hero. He didn't have any extraordinary abilities. And yet, here was this alien queen, this being of incredible power, telling him that he held the fate of her people in his hands. "I don't know how to be a symbol," Liam said softly. "I don't know what to do." "You will learn," Neria replied, her voice unwavering. "You will learn, because you have no choice." Liam looked at her, the weight of her words pressing down on him. There was something about her presence, something about the way she carried herself, that made him feel both small and important at the same time. He didn't know how he was supposed to save her people, but he knew that he couldn't walk away from this. He couldn't turn his back on the possibility that the fate of an entire empire, and perhaps even humanity itself, rested in his hands. "You've already taken the first step," Neria continued, her voice softening slightly. "By surviving, by staying alive, you've shown me that there is hope. And with that hope, we can fight back, together." Liam nodded, a slow understanding beginning to form in his mind. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't do this alone. And he wasn't alone. He had the Queen by his side, and together they would face whatever came next. The storm outside had passed, and in its wake the world seemed eerily still. The air was heavy with the unspoken promise of what lay ahead. Liam took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He didn't know what kind of power Neria saw in him, but he was determined to find out. The fate of her people, and perhaps of his own, depended on it. And so as the silence of the chamber enveloped them, Liam and Neria stood together, bound by a force neither fully understood, but both knew was strong enough to change the course of history. Liam's mind was swirling with questions. The weight of what Neria had said to him hung heavy in the air. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that this wasn't just about him. It was about survival, not just for him, but for the entire galaxy. Neria's people, the Xiphoria Empire, were on the brink of collapse, and somehow his presence on this alien world was the key to their future. The thought was overwhelming. He had never been anyone special. He had never seen himself as a hero. But standing here in the heart of an alien empire, with the fate of an entire race resting on his shoulders, he knew there was no turning back. "Are you ready to begin?" Neria's voice cut through his thoughts, pulling him back into the present. Liam turned to face her. She was standing near the window again, her eyes fixed on the horizon. The storm had passed, but the sky remained heavy with dark clouds. A distant rumble of thunder echoed through the air, as though the world itself was holding its breath. "I'm ready," Liam replied, his voice steady, even though his heart was racing. "What do I need to do?" Neria looked at him, her expression unreadable.
We begin by learning about each other, understanding each other.
The bond between our people is not one of just blood, but of spirit. You must learn to connect with that spirit. Liam raised an eyebrow. Spirit? What do you mean? Neria's eyes softened slightly, and for the first time, Liam saw a flicker of something like hope in her gaze. The strength that lies within your people, the resilience, the ability to endure no matter the cost.
That is the power I need. That is the power we both need.
Liam nodded slowly, trying to wrap his head around her words. The Queen was right. Humanity had always survived against impossible odds. From the earliest days of civilization, humans had fought to survive, against disease, famine, and even the harshest of environments. But what did it have to do with an alien queen and her empire? "Okay," Liam said, his voice firm. "I'll do whatever I can to help." Neria studied him for a long moment, as though she were searching for something in his eyes. Finally, she spoke. "You will train with me. Together, we will strengthen that bond. I will teach you how to harness the power within you, and you will teach me the true meaning of survival." With that, Neria led Liam out of the chamber and into the heart of the alien city. The streets were quiet, the air still, as though the city itself were waiting for something. The buildings around them were like nothing Liam had ever seen before, tall, graceful structures that seemed to be grown rather than built. The materials they were made of shimmered with an iridescent glow, and the architecture was organic, with curves and flowing lines that gave the impression of movement. As they walked through the city, Liam couldn't help but feel like an outsider. The people who lived here were unlike anything he had ever seen. They moved with a fluid grace, their eyes glowing with an intensity that suggested a deep connection to their world. They didn't speak as they passed, but there was a quiet understanding between them, as if they recognized the importance of this moment. Eventually, they arrived at a large, open space, a kind of arena, where the air seemed to hum with energy. In the center of the arena was a platform, surrounded by intricate symbols and markings that Liam couldn't understand. "This is where we will train," Neria said, her voice calm and commanding. "Here, you will learn the ways of the Xiphoria, and in return, I will learn from you. We will become stronger together." Liam stepped onto the platform, his feet sinking slightly into the smooth surface. The energy in the air was palpable, and for the first time since he had arrived on this planet, he felt something stir within him, a strange, almost electric feeling, like a spark of power he didn't fully understand. "Focus," Neria said, her voice low. "Feel the energy around you. Let it flow through you." Let it become a part of you. Liam closed his eyes, trying to clear his mind. He had no idea what Nyria meant by the energy around him, but he trusted her. Slowly, he took a deep breath, letting the air fill his lungs. He focused on the sensations in his body, the way his muscles tensed, the way his heartbeat thrummed in his chest. He tried to center himself, to find a place of calm amidst the storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. And then, something shifted. It was subtle at first, like a faint whisper in the back of his mind. But it grew, and suddenly, Liam felt as if he were connected to something larger than himself. The energy around him seemed to pulse, a rhythmic beat that matched the pounding of his heart. He could feel it in his hands, in his feet, in his chest. It was as if the very fabric of the world itself was alive, and he was a part of it. Liam's eyes snapped open, and he looked at Nyria, who was watching him with a mixture of approval and something else, something he couldn't quite place. "Good," she said.
"You are beginning to understand. The energy you feel is not just power, Liam.
It is the spirit of survival. It is the bond between all living things, and it is what gives us the strength to endure. You are starting to tap into it, and that is the first step." Liam nodded, his mind racing. He had no idea how this was possible, but somehow he knew it was real. He could feel the power within him, a force he had never known existed. It wasn't just physical strength. It was something deeper, something intangible. "Now," Nyria continued, her voice steady, "we will train your body as well as your mind. You will learn the ways of the Zyphoria warriors, the ancient techniques that have been passed down for generations. But remember, strength alone is not enough. You must learn to wield that strength with purpose, with focus. Only then will you be able to protect what matters." Liam followed Nyria's instructions carefully, trying to mimic her movements. She was graceful, her movements fluid and precise, each action filled with purpose. He struggled at first, but as he practiced, he felt the connection between his body and the energy around him grow stronger. Each movement became more natural, more instinctive. He could feel his muscles growing stronger, his mind sharpening. But it wasn't just the physical training that affected him. It was something else, something intangible that he couldn't quite put into words. It was as though his mind and body were becoming one, as though he were syncing with the very essence of life itself. Days passed, and Liam's training intensified. Nyria pushed him harder, demanding more with each passing hour. But with every challenge, he grew stronger. The bond between them deepened, and as they trained together, Liam began to understand Nyria's vision. She wasn't just training him to fight. She was training him to survive, to thrive, to become something greater than just a soldier. One evening, as the sun set behind the alien horizon, Liam stood at the edge of the training platform, looking out over the city. The wind had picked up, and the air was filled with the sounds of distant storms brewing. But in that moment, Liam felt something he had never felt before, a sense of peace, a sense of belonging. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was part of something bigger, part of a galaxy that was about to change forever. And he would fight to protect it. Liam stood at the edge of the training platform, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien city. The air was thick with the hum of distant energy, and the quiet was both comforting and unnerving. He had been through so much since he arrived on this alien world, but everything had led to this moment. This was the final test, the culmination of everything he had learned in the last few weeks. Nyria stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the horizon, her expression unreadable. She had become more than a teacher to him. She had become a partner, a guide. They had trained together, fought side by side, and through it all, they had grown stronger, more in tune with each other. "You are ready," Nyria said, her voice soft but firm. "You have learned what it means to fight. what it means to survive. But now, you must learn what it means to lead. Liam turned to look at her. Her words hung in the air, and for the first time he truly understood the weight of what she was asking. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a leader, a symbol of hope, and the future of the Sci-Fi Empire. The responsibility was overwhelming, but in his heart, Liam knew there was no turning back. There was too much at stake. "I'm ready," Liam said, his voice steady, though his heart was racing.
What do I need to do?
Neria's eyes softened, and for the briefest moment, Liam saw something like pride flicker in her gaze. "The Caldari are not just an enemy we can defeat in battle," she said, her tone low and serious. "They are a force of destruction, a threat that seeks to wipe us from the galaxy. If we are to survive, we must outsmart them, not just fight them. And to do that, we need more than just strength. We need unity." Liam nodded slowly, trying to process what she was saying. The Caldari weren't just a threat to the Zephyria. They were a threat to all life in the galaxy. If they succeeded in their conquest, everything would be lost. There could be no more hesitation, no more waiting. It was time to act. "How do we do that?" Liam asked, his mind racing with possibilities. "How do we unite our people and defeat the Caldari?" Neria turned toward him, her eyes intense. "We will begin by gathering allies. There are other races, other empires, who share our fear of the Caldari. If we can convince them that our cause is just, we can form an alliance strong enough to challenge them. But this will not be easy. The Caldari are cunning, and they will stop at nothing to prevent us from gaining power." Liam took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the task ahead of him. This was more than just a military campaign. This was a battle for the future of the galaxy, and if they failed, everything would be lost. But somehow, despite the odds, he felt a sense of determination rising within him. He had already faced death, and now he would face the impossible.
Then we'll do whatever it takes,
Liam said, his voice full of resolve.
"I'll help you gather allies."
I'll help you unite the galaxy. Neria nodded, a faint smile appearing on her lips.
"I knew you would. But remember, Liam, this is not just about fighting. It's about persuasion, about forging bonds where there were none. We must show the other empires that humanity is worth fighting for, that we are more than just soldiers. We are survivors, and together we can be unstoppable." Liam didn't fully understand what Neria meant by that, but he knew one thing. The time for hesitation was over. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and it was up to him and Neria to stop it. They couldn't afford to fail. The following days were filled with meetings and strategy sessions. Neria took him to different parts of her empire, where he met with ambassadors from various races and factions. Some were skeptical of humanity, unsure whether they could trust a race they had never encountered before. Others were more receptive, intrigued by the idea of uniting against the common threat of the Caldari. Liam found himself speaking in front of councils, making the case for humanity's resilience, for their ability to adapt and survive. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always convincing, but little by little, he began to win their trust. It was in one of these meetings, deep within the heart of the Sci-Fi capital, that Liam saw the full scale of the war they were about to face. The holographic maps displayed the Caldari fleet, massive ships, powerful weapons, and an army that seemed endless. It was a terrifying sight, and for the first time, Liam wondered if they stood a chance. But Neria was there, standing beside him, her presence steady and unshakable. She was the leader, the guiding force, and she believed they could win. And somehow, as he looked at her, Liam began to believe it too. Together, they could do this. "The Caldari may be strong," Neria said as they stood before the map, "but we have something they don't. We have the will to survive, and that is a power they will never understand." Liam glanced at her, his heart swelling with determination. "We're not just going to survive, Neria. We're going to win." The words felt powerful as they left his lips, and he realized then that they weren't just words. They were a promise to himself, to Neria, and to everyone who was depending on them. In the days that followed, Liam continued to work with Neria, building alliances, preparing the Zyphoria for war, and strengthening the bonds between them. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a leader, and with every decision he made, he grew more confident in his role. The future of the galaxy was uncertain, but for the first time in his life, Liam felt like he had a purpose. The final battle came sooner than anyone expected. The Caldari launched a full-scale attack on the Zyphoria capital, their fleet descending upon the planet like a storm. Liam stood beside Neria, watching as the enemy ships filled the sky, their weapons firing relentlessly. The time for words was over. Now it was time for action. "We're ready," Neria said, her voice calm as she surveyed the battlefield. "We will stand together. We will fight, and we will win." Liam nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. The Caldari were here. But they were not invincible. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, just as they had underestimated the Zyphoria. Together, they were stronger than any enemy they had faced. The battle raged for hours, but with each passing moment, Liam felt more alive. He fought with a determination he had never known, leading his forces with Neria at his side. They were unstoppable, their willpower stronger than any weapon the Caldari had. And when the dust finally settled, when the last of the Caldari ships were destroyed, the galaxy had changed forever. The Zyphoria Empire stood victorious, but more than that, they stood united. Liam had proven that humanity's strength was more than just physical. It was the strength of the human spirit, the will to survive against all odds. And as he stood beside Neria, watching the sun rise over the alien world, Liam knew that they had accomplished something impossible. They had changed the course of history. But the journey wasn't over. The galaxy was vast, and there were still many challenges ahead. But for the first time, Liam felt ready to face whatever came next. Together with Neria, they would continue to fight for a future where survival was not just about strength. It was about the bonds they had forged, the allies they had made, and the unbreakable spirit that defined them all.